Well, welcome everybody to the second edition of the OPN Think Tank, which is a really fancy way of saying we've got people smarter than myself to talk about some cool things pertaining to packaging. So we are joined by Martin Stahel, I think I'm saying your name correctly, and Alex Shevel. We'll go with that as well. And so we're going to have each of them present. They have two, I would say, different topics to cover, but both of incredible importance as we look towards some of the future things in packaging and along with just present tense innovations and stuff that we can be doing right now. So that is what we're going to be covering. Martin, we are going to turn it over to you first. So as I know that my introduction for you was incredibly stellar, and you're probably like, I've never been introduced in a more phenomenal way than that just happened, but maybe, just maybe try to give a better introduction for yourself. And I believe you have some slides you're going to be sharing as well.
Yes, great. I'll just go to that screen share and then to the introduction to connected packaging and the world of augmented reality. So just as a quick check, guys, hopefully you can see the screen share has loaded okay. Great. So over the next, start with the introduction. So my name is Martin and I'm from a company called Zappar, and we're an augmented reality platform and creative studio. And over the next sort of 15, 20 minutes, I'd like to take you through the what, the why, and the how of AR, and really take you through the fundamental questions of what is it? Then, even though this is a new technology, why should brands care? Why is this going to make a difference? And then to show you how it works. So I'll introduce you very quickly to the Zappar platform, give you some, share some of our learnings around activating AR campaigns, and then the all-important case studies. And I'll really canter through the what and the why really quickly, because I want to get to those case studies for two reasons. One, it's definitely more interesting than listening to me talk for ages. And it also shows you that this is tech that brands are using in the real world today. I'm not sat here future gazing and telling you what's going to happen in the next decade. Most importantly, to have fun and really enjoy this next 15 minutes, make sure you have your smartphone handy, because we're going to have some packaging or experiential projects to scan from the screen. Well done. So to kick it all off, really, what is augmented reality? And ultimately, AR is an experience that is activated through the camera and the screen of your smartphone. And while I've got lots of great descriptions of what it is, there's no better way of telling you than it is to show you. So if you get your smartphones handy, here's your first chance to scan AR in action. So if you open your camera and then aim it at the QR code, and you'll probably need to come quite close. Then you need to tap a couple of buttons. So accept the link to the web page. Then you'll press the launch button in the middle of the screen, and you'll have to accept a couple of permissions so you can use your camera. And once it's loaded, please aim your camera at the Bombay Sapphire logo or label on the bottle. And Adam, sorry, we're talking about gin, and it's not even 9 a.m. for you guys over there, but
It's 5 o'clock somewhere.
Exactly, we're nearly there. And what you can see here is a lovely surprise and delight moment of the bottle animating with all those floral images, the flowers, the plants, and the insects buzzing around, to really bring that brand to life and talk about all the floral notes in the flavors of the gin. And the objective here of Bombay Sapphire was quite honorably to teach us how to drink gin in different ways. So if you tap on one of those little video thumbnails, it'll then take you to a video recipe, so you could enjoy their product in more ways than just the standard gin and tonic. And what they found here is that by teaching people to drink the product in different ways, they extended the lifetime value of the customer, because they didn't just get bored with gin and tonic. They were able to impress their friends when they came round with different recipes and cocktails. And this is a lovely way of bridging that divide between the physical product and the digital world in which we all live. Because guarantee you, if you've got any question in the modern world, what's our first port of call? Google. And this is the brand's opportunity to wrestle that control back and help their customers at that moment of assistance. So hopefully that gives you an insight into what AR is and how a humble label on a bottle can be used to unlock a digital experience. And later on, we'll come on to touch on what is it that makes people want to scan, and what is it that brands can extract value from that process.
Hey, Martin, can I ask you a question on that?
Yeah, go for it.
As a person who works for a company that prints humble labels, does augmented reality require any type of special printing on the label, or is it triggered off of the image? So just standard printing would work just fine.
Yes, that's just ink, normal ink, no tech, no microchips, no batteries. This is
yeah, because it was on my screen. That's a stupid question. It wasn't actually even a physical bottle. It's just triggering off of.
But it's pertinent because I get a lot of that same question when we're talking to face, and that QR code needs to be at a minimum on a piece of packaging about 15 millimeters across, so it doesn't take up that much space.
And in this case, Bombay Sapphire could it's a portal to a space where they can change the content should they want to, seasonality, whatever it is that they want to do. They don't have to change their art or anything like that, correct?
Exactly. All the content lives in the cloud, and we can change it daily, weekly, monthly, annually, whenever.
Regionally, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool.
So, moving on. One of the reasons why I'm, in a geeky way, really quite excited about the world of packaging.
Hey, Martin, can I interrupt you real quickly? So there's some people joining us live right now. So our live stream just got up, and we are
take
talking.
A step back.
No, you're fine. We're talking with Martin. I keep messing up. You're Stahel, and he's sharing about augmented reality. We just got to interact with some Bombay Sapphire Gin AR on our phones. So there will be other examples, correct, Martin?
There will be. So anybody who's just joined, please make sure you've got your smartphone handy, and we'll be able to bring the whole world of connected pack and augmented reality to life.
Perfect. Thank you.
So one of the reasons why I'm really excited about packaging is this is a brand's probably most underrated and undervalued media channel. If you think about the world of packaging, the packaging manufacturers are doing some incredibly clever things of making it last longer, using less plastic, and this packaging sits in our everyday lives. It's on my kitchen table. It's in my bag. It's in my kid's school bag, and that media space, that label, is in touch with consumers every single day. But unfortunately, up until now, it's been sat there kind of silent. It sits on my kitchen table. It doesn't do anything. But with the power of the smartphone and a QR code, we can now unlock a digital channel that is in contact with the consumers every day. And what I can show you is how that surprise and delight moment that AR and interacting with the content on the screen can unlock commercial value for brands. And while we're going to specifically in these next 15 minutes talk about engagement from packaging itself, actually we need to bear in mind that AR can play a role throughout the whole consumer journey, right back at the very beginning through the consideration phase, through press adverts, through digital, at the point of sale as well. And that can be as much physical retail as well as from e-commerce platforms. But today we're specifically going to talk about how packaging can be, I suppose, elevated with the use of AR and immersive technologies. So why should brands care? It's all well and good having new tech in the world, but what difference does it make? What problems are we here to solve? And ultimately, I think the starting point is that we as consumers are all connected. We are, to a fault, obsessed with our devices. And it is disrupting our everyday lives. We're banking, we're organizing our social lives, we are booking holidays if we're allowed to, we are shopping, we're communicating, and increasingly we are looking at the world through the lens of our camera. And there's also a lot of research out there that shows that consumers are demanding more information from our products, and they want, so 66% of millennials want to spend more on sustainable products. But unfortunately, sustainability information from a brand's point of view is really hard to surface. And if I am a consumer, I might care about sustainability, but I'm probably not that inclined to go and hunt through layers and layers of a brand's website to understand how sustainable they are and what difference they are making. Whereas if I'm holding the product in my hand, either in the kitchen or at the supermarket, that may be the point that a brand can surface that information. I would scan it and be able to make a more informed purchase decision. Then 78% of us want more information that appears on the pack, because quite frankly, the label is small compared to all the information that we want. So we can use a code in the user's camera to surface all of that information. In line with that, people want more product provenance, where all the ingredients come from, our carbon footprint. We're all becoming more aware of the sustainability, the importance of our purchasing decisions. And moving away from these honorable metrics, over 90% of us now want an experience from our brand rather than just the physical product. And all of these can be delivered through a code and the smartphone's camera. But that is all well and good from the consumer's point of view to want it. It's really important from the brands and from the brand managers. How does this deliver value back to their business? And through the work with our partners, we can see that we can deliver results and statistics back through the number of scans and the dwell time, so how engaged are people in the experience itself. But working with our partners' own analysts, we can then start to attribute some sort of commercial value back to the AR experience. And we've seen some of our campaigns improve sales by over 15%, increase the lifetime value of those customers, so the loyalty, by over 10%. Again, I'm quite geeky and I love this fact that we can collect data through the user's smartphone. And in some projects we've worked with, we've collected over 100,000 opted-in email addresses. Now, the brand itself, they were stunned by this because the amount that they would have to invest in generating that volume of opted-in email data elsewhere would have been astronomical and way outstripped the cost of creating an AR experience on PAP. And of course, we can get people to share on social while they're on their phone. And if your brand's got an app, we can help drive those downloads. But it's just a very quick snapshot on the sort of value that this new tech can deliver. And quite honestly, scanning is commonplace now. All of these big platforms are teaching us to aim our phones at the world around us, scan a code, and unlock content. And I suppose if there's ever a silver lining for COVID, we are, as consumers, even more used to seeing QR codes and scanning them to sign into a restaurant, unlock, download a menu, and so on. And with what we call web AR, and that's scanning a QR code to launch the experience, the brand can own that relationship with the consumer rather than having to go through one of these very expensive and walled gardens of those big brands.
Hey, Martin, did you see engagement increase significantly once Apple opened up their system to integrate in with the camera instead of having to have an app? I would imagine that was a big change for the industry.
Yes, it was. And what unfortunately the people who tuned in late missed the very beginning. But what we saw there was called Web AR, which was scanning a QR code to unlock the experience rather than having to download an app. And you're right, that really came to, I suppose, global acceptance once Apple had unlocked that QR code scanning functionality. So what I'd encourage our brands and our partners to do is think about, don't so much think about AR as a technology. Think about what is your camera strategy? What's going to happen when somebody points their camera at your product, what help can you offer them? And then what value can you extract out of that relationship with them? And apologies to people who didn't hear the introduction. I'm cantering through this so we can get to the case studies where everything will come to life. So how does it work? Well, I have to start off with a very brief introduction to the Zappar ecosystem, and it is going to be very brief. But Zappar was launched 10 years ago to democratize this world of immersive technologies. And that meant to make it quick and cost effective for our partners to create that content and put it into the hands of the users given the tech that they already own. So this small but powerful smartphone. And we have a creative studio back at the HQ, but we've also built our own content authoring platform that allows us to pump out that short form bit of infotainment, if you like, and put it into the smartphone. And that's really important because AR is best served as a bite-size, sort of 2 to 4 minutes worth of engagement, because it's got to be simple to download, even if somebody's on the move, and it's got to be simple to process, even if somebody's on a 5 or 6 year old device, as they are on a shiny new one. So we've got to make sure that it works in the market, and our platform is great at doing that. You can either treat us as an agency, we'll build it for you, or if you've got your own agency or creative studio in-house, you can use Zappworks and build it all yourself. And once you're in that ecosystem, the options for content creation are endless. You could launch video, pictures, 360 video, animations, 3D models, gaming, face filters, photo sharing. The list is endless, and hopefully you'll see some of those come to life in the case studies in a moment. And as Adam just mentioned, web AR and the now pretty much universal recognition of QR codes through the native camera has really been a tipping point for consumers to get on board, but also for brands who really didn't like the QR code, also the app download. Recent survey from one of our partners in the US revealed that their customers between the ages of 18 and 65, 89% of them knew what a QR code was and how to access it. And this was even before COVID. And 82% of the devices in market at the moment can scan a QR code through their native camera. So this has definitely proven the tipping point for the industry. And once the user is in the AR experience, there's a whole wealth of data that's available to the brand that they've never had before. So from scanning times, times of day, what country, how many people, how often, and so on. But this has been really revolutionary for quite a few brands as they understand when people are consuming their products and engaging with it. For example, with some of our cereal brands, I'm still surprised how many people are engaging with cereal brands at 7, 8, 9 o'clock at night. I thought it was just a breakfast thing, but hey, I was wrong.
I had cereal last night for dinner. True story.
You see, yeah, there you go. I didn't realize.
At 9 o'clock at night after I had to coach 2 basketball games. So don't judge.
Good for you. But before we get into lots of the fun creative discussions, and everybody is really keen to get to those discussions, I'd really implore people to take a step back and set your objectives. Go into this new tech with old school business planning methodology. Have an objective. What problem are we trying to solve? And what are the metrics we're going to measure? And here are just some of those objectives that we're working with our partners to resolve. Starting at 12 o'clock, we talk about brand purpose. How does our brand differ from the competitors? We can surface sustainability and sourcing stories that people would otherwise never understand or never get to see. We could inspire brand use through teaching people how to cook new recipes, make different cocktails, get the look tutorials for cosmetics and so on. We can help to drive sales and loyalty through adding digital rewards. We can help people to share on social media through face filters. And a lot of the cereal brands use us to activate their partnerships and promotions, for example. So rather than getting a plastic toy, which is probably showing my age, in a cereal box, you can now scan the back and get a digital game instead. And then there's the whole piece around data capture, which I touched on earlier. And we can help brands activate their direct-to-consumer proposition with linking out to e-commerce platforms. And then just to bring us home before we jump into the case studies, I want to share with you our learnings over the last 10 years and distill those down into what we call our 3 C's for success. And if you're ever going to activate your own AR experience, I really encourage you to take these 3 points down and think about the context that the user is in, the call to action that we give them, and then the content we're offering them. And to dive into each of those, think of the context as the hygiene factors around scanning. Quite frankly, is it the right time for the person to scan? Have they got a hand free? Have they got access to a Wi-Fi network? So if somebody is driving or on a flight, probably not the best time to ask them to take a phone out of their pocket and scan something. But if they're at home, if they're at work, if they're at retail, if they're on a bus, great time. They've got time, they've got the product, they've got access to a good network connection. But they're only going to do that if the call to action on the packaging is really clear. So make sure it's on the front of pack. Don't hide the call to action on the back and hide the code underneath. Make sure that code and the call to action tells them that AR content exists, how to get it, and importantly, why they should bother. Because if we don't sell it to the consumer and make it worth their while, guess what? They're not going to scan. And you might have the best knockout content behind that code, but if we don't sell it to them on the packaging itself, they're not going to care. They're not going to scan. And the power of that content is to make me, as the consumer, want to get involved. How are you going to make it fun, useful, or interesting to me to get involved? And then, if we make the content beautiful and engaging, only then will the consumer be more inclined to deliver on our commercial objectives. So please do remember those 3 C's. Think about the context the user is in, the call to action that we give them, and the content. Make it worthwhile, not just a link to YouTube. So now for the fun bit, people. Do make sure that you've got your phones handy, and I'll bring to life some of the case studies. First, I'll kick off with a quick video. I reckon we have a few people on the call interested in sustainability. And this is an example of a charity event in the UK called the Red Nose Day. And it's a big BBC-led initiative. And one of the retailers sold a t-shirt. And because this is all around a big charity event and with a well-known broadcaster, they wanted to reassure people that the product was sustainably sourced. So on the label itself, there was a code, and this was pre the QR code. But then when you open it and scan, there was a video clip from Keira Knightley. She introduces the campaign. But importantly, it's not about the stars. This is taking us back to the cotton farm in Uganda and letting us see the story of Mary the farmer. And otherwise, I would never have had that understanding of just why this t-shirt was special and the efforts the retailer went through to make sure that it was sustainable in its production, its farming, its production, and therefore it was a bona fide product to be part of this campaign. So now it's time to pick out your phone, and we'll go from t-shirts to humble salt. And I love sharing this example because salt is one of those really dull utility products, which, quite frankly, why should people care about? And what I'd like you to do is take your phones and open the native camera and scan that QR code and then point it at the product packaging. And what you'll see here is that Bad Reichenhaller is quite a famous German salt brand. And what they were experiencing was a lot of cheaper imports from overseas, and people didn't really understand the value of Alpen salts. And these were salts that were mined from the pristine German Alps, and they wanted to teach their consumers about the brand heritage. So when you point at the product packaging, then you'll see a window into the Alps. And you've got a beautiful scene there where you've got a chalet in the foreground. If you tap on that, you'll then be able to see some recipes. And in the background, you'll also see the mine. And if you tap on that, you can then take a 360 tour around the mine to start to understand the brand provenance. And while this, I think the experience itself is beautiful and it looks great, it's lovely and interactive, I was astounded that in an 8-week period that they had over 150,000 scans of the packaging, which is pretty damn good for a humble packet of salt. So quite frankly, if salt can do it, any brand that's got a little bit more oomph behind it has definitely got an opportunity there.
They're making Pepper very jealous right now.
Yeah, yeah. So we can also, so moving from salt to cereal, and how are we doing on time here, Adam?
We've got a few more minutes, and then we have one question before we get to Alex. So
Sure.
how many these are awesome case studies, by the way.
Yeah, well, we can break for questions after this one.
Okay.
So we'll move from salt to cereal. And here's a great example of a project we did with Kellogg's and Frosted Flakes in the US. Likewise, if you aim at the QR code, follow all of the links and the permissions. Unfortunately here, you have to prove that you are an adult. It's just one of their brand guidelines. So just tap in any year. But Kellogg's objective here was to do two things. One is to amplify their support of sports for schools, because I don't think a lot of people realize that they donate quite a lot of money into the school sports arena. And they also wanted people to feel that they were part of that story. So when you scan the product, Tony then walks out in front of the pack. He then tells the story, but also shows, nice. Then he actually tells the people that by scanning, they're actually helping make donations to their school sports, which I think helps bring people into the fold and makes them feel that they're part of it. And then on the menu, you can see you could go to the Tiger Mission to learn more about the sports in schools, or you can play a game, or you could take some Tony filters. So they're giving people digital rewards, which they can play games with. Or then we can take a nice Tony face filter and then share that on social. So it's hitting quite a few of those brand objectives that we mentioned at the beginning. Here it's about the brand purpose, supporting sports in schools. It's giving people a digital reward, but it's also helping them to share on social.
That's great. And I love that your point about having it be connected to the packaging, when you're saying where do you want to engage them? Sometimes I'll be driving in my car and there's a billboard with a giant QR code on it. I'm like, this is unsafe. Yeah. I mean, unless you're just sitting in the car, I guess, and you're like, I'm going to get out my phone and scan this thing. But that was a great point. We did have one question come in from Instagram. I don't believe the company. I believe a person who's on Instagram watching the live stream. If it is Instagram, then maybe you should reach out to How does a brand or company go about linking a QR code to their product? Is that something that your company handles as part of the whole product offering?
Yes. So the way that Zappar works is we have our own creative studio or we have our self-serve platform. And through either way, either through the platform or our studio, we can give you a QR code. It comes as a JPEG or another image file, and you just print it on your packaging. You can also go to any one of the many QR code websites and download your own QR code. My advice there is just make sure that you can still manage where the URL points, and you can edit that in the future, so that today you could have it linking to your homepage, tomorrow to another video, the day after to an AR experience. Cool. But QR codes are so commonplace and easy to use these days.
Yeah, they kind of had a resurgence. It was sort of like they were the bane of every graphic designer's existence, and now because there's a real positive utility to them, and there's a lot of user interface. That's great. I know for me, I could talk to you for another hour probably, and I'm going to at some point in time. I wrote down. So how else would somebody get in touch with you? A brand, somebody reaches out, they see this, and they say, I have to talk to Martin. There we go. Got his email, and LinkedIn. Those would be the two best ways.
Yeah. So email's really easy. Martin@zappar.com.
Oh, Zappar.
Like it, huh?
Ah, got it. I'm a little slow, but I am American, so give me a little bit of grace.
Hey, it's early.
It is early. It is early here. Well, Martin, thank you so much. You're welcome to stick around while Alex and I fight about flexible packaging, and appreciate you sharing. Hopefully, people will reach out to you, and I get asked a ton about AR, so I'm excited to be able to say, talk to Martin, because it's becoming a very real thing with brands. So appreciate you sharing.
Great. Thanks, Adam.
Yep. All right, Alex, it's your time here. And so why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself? We got about, a little over 20 minutes.
All right, cool.
Just to give you
All right, I spared the introduction to my person, and everything else can be found on LinkedIn about myself, and I will just share the screen and let's get into the nitty-gritty.
Let's dive in, like we're Scrooge McDuck into a whole bunch of gold coins, and we're going to swim around. Let's just
exactly. All right, so all right, I work for this brilliant Japanese company, Ube. We are a nylon manufacturer. So most of you probably still remember nylon from different applications. It's one of the strongest polymers in the market. And what we're actually doing with nylon is flexible multi-layer packaging. And we supply this all across the world. And we use it in the food production in order to actually reduce the whole thickness of different flexible packaging to make it as thin as possible without compromising on the performance. So it's not only, as we talked before, the barrier properties, so longer shelf life, but it also the down gouging possibilities. So making the final packaging lighter, softer, thinner, and using less plastic at the end. And this is what we're doing there. And of course, it's used in different other applications and non-food application, automotive applications. And this is basically what it is. So it's a thermoplastic material used for puncture resistance and gas barrier. So we can provide those two things because we know that, and Adam, you probably know that not every polymer is created equal. And we need different polymers in order to kind of make the best packaging possible. And this is how multi-layer packaging and multi-material packaging evolved. And it is the latest development, let's say, in packaging when it comes especially for packaging of highly perishable goods. So meat, cheese, dairy products, everything that is very sensitive to all of this stuff. This is where it goes. And as we can see over the last, and especially during the pandemic, the rise of all this grocery e-commerce. I mean, you have Blue Apron, HelloFresh in the US. I mean, I think they tripled in market cap over a period of 3 months. So, I mean, people are more or not as reluctant as they used to be to order things online. And this is where nylon actually comes in. The only problem that we have in this particular regard is the whole trend about recyclability and sustainability. I mean, you probably know the whole story about monolayer solutions because they're so much easier to recycle, and we should try to reduce multi-layers. And I have actually some stuff on this as well. Just give me a second. There you go. All right. So what we did is we teamed up with one of the producers of flexible packaging, and we said, okay, what can we do with recycled polyethylene and polyamide film? So can we actually recycle it? And if we recycle it, can we reuse it? Is there a circularity to this kind of thing, or is really mono the only solution to go? And basically what we've used is we used a roughly 15 or 16% PA in the total film structure. We recycled this, we use the flakes, and then what we did is, without using any compatibilizer, anything of this kind, we processed this and extruded a completely new film as a PE film, as a recycled polyethylene film. So what is the problem, as you can see here? I mean, Recyclas is one of the famous European associations or institutes that actually decide what kind of polymers can be recycled, what are easy to recycle, how it can be done. And as stated in the third column, there are a lot of polymers classified as not recyclable, but it's not purely due to the fact that they're not recyclable or they're kind of interfering with the different streams. But the 2 points were that either they were not tested, as stated there, so they were just classified as low compatibility because they were either not tested in a proper recycling facility, or they faced some issues during the recycling. I mean, we know that the recycling industry is not the most innovative one. It's not comparable to Martin's industry, I would say. So there are, of course, limitations. So the cutting tools might not be as sharp enough to really cut through all polymers and all the films. So there are some limitations. So what we did here is we then used this material, the recycled polyethylene, and then we compared the recycled polyethylene material with this mixed of nylon in there. And what we actually saw is that the recycled polyethylene gives us even better mechanical performance than the virgin material. And I think this is brilliant for all of those who are in the or who are already using recycled polyolefins for their production. And truly what we can say is we do need to start a collection of all the plastics materials. I mean, as you mentioned in one of your podcasts, so I think we've talked before, that even glass is not recycled everywhere in the world. So the first thing what we need to do is to make sure all the waste and the plastic packaging gets collected, and we will figure it out. And this is a nice proof to say, okay, the recycled stream, even with multi-materials, is something that can be recycled, and actually can be recycled even with better performance. And this is what we actually done. The customer of ours is currently selling this material for the OEMs to package or package automotive parts with pure LDPE layer and the recycled PEPA layer. So that's kind of debunking the myths on lots of the misconception out there when it comes to recyclability of multi-materials. We're not the only company who is doing it. Our direct competitor, BASF, is also working on this and basically showing that if we want to kind of rethink the whole industry, it is possible. We just need to work together and don't take a no for granted and keep working on it.
Is this particular, this LDPE and then the recycled content layers, is that also a fully recyclable um, material, or is that just, I don't mean just a better material, but is this providing a lot better properties than, say, the virgin material would
I
have?
mean, if we go just back to the comparison, it does
Yeah.
actually. I mean, if we don't care about transparency, because this is true, we lose a little bit on transparency whenever we recycle, but we
Hmm.
can use compatibilizers to enhance the transparency level. But this is true. I mean, if you compare just the same amount of virgin material, if let's say it would be um, 100 micron film. So we actually even use, through using recycled material in the final film application, we can actually even use less, because there is still this portion of nylon or also other materials. It's not only about nylon. I mean, for us, this is the most important thing, but for others, of course, they will also have similar success stories. And nylon is the mechanical product in the market, the mechanical polymers, which gives the superior mechanical properties. And this is
Gotcha.
the way to go.
Okay.
So yeah, basically this is about the whole Uber thing. You probably saw here this little change and challenge logo, and I think this is also why I wanted to raise the topic today as well. So as you may know, within the Uber Corporation, we have kind of a startup, a spin-off, in a sense that we created a platform to really reunite all the packaging players, industry participants, um, to enable this kind of conversation. I mean, we really saw that there is a lack of information regarding this very specific type of packaging, which we call performance packaging. So this is the flexible, multi-layer, co-extruded barrier packaging. I mean, it's a freaking mouthful to pronounce, and it's just a very teeny tiny part of the whole flexible packaging value chain. But if we redesign those kind of packaging, and especially when it comes to meat, cheese products, every packaging failure creates food waste. And when I found out that how much actually flexible packaging is supporting reduction in food waste, this was kind of the key topic for us and for me back in the days. And especially, I'm not sure if you have friends, but when you talk to them, so what you're doing for a living, and then you tell them I work in plastics, it's like, oh, really? How can you
Yeah,
sleep at night?
I just don't have friends, so I don't have to talk about that. No.
But you know
Um,
this, the common misconceptions about, oh my God, how can you sleep at night? I mean, probably brilliant on you polyurethane mattress, right? So,
yeah, exactly. I also try
and
to tell people this, and I want to get into this a little bit because I don't think that the majority of people realize that food waste is, if it was a if you looked at food waste as a country, it's the third largest contributor to greenhouse gas emissions. It's 33 to 40% of all food
yeah,
ends up in a landfill, which creates all sorts of problems. So you lose out on the energy for the food creation that has gone into as carbon, and then it's decomposing, and that's causing all sorts of problems when you have to trap the gas. And so yeah, we're not going to fight, actually. Sorry, Alex. Like I'm fully on board. It's actually, I gave a TEDx Salt Lake City talk about how packaging solves real world problems, and one of them was we need to focus on reducing food waste. And I'll have to connect you up as well if you don't know Professor Pierre Pienaar down in Australia. He's the head of the World Packaging Organization. This is a massive undertaking between the WPO and the United Nations. So this is really cool. I don't want to derail you,
that's
but I want to
cool.
hear
All right,
so much more
yeah.
about this.
Please hook me up with this. And exactly, I mean, this is still how we want to, I mean, when we derail the whole conversation about monomaterials and the right packaging, what we would like to kind of focus on is really the right topic. So we should not substitute one problem if we solve one problem and create another one. So as you said, 33% of all food never ends up consumed, and it's not the problem of our ever-growing society, as Martin mentioned, we will have to challenge to feed the world. And if we right now have the resources but waste 30% of it, how shall we go on? And this was kind of the whole idea when me and my friends at Uber founded the Change and Challenge initiative. It was basically this. So we truly believe that flexible packaging and the right packaging can help to reduce global food waste, and this is what we believe in. And this is why we created this this online platform to give people like yourself, like literally everyone, to enable the conversation and spark the conversation about what is packaging actually doing, and is it sustainable, and to which extent. And just saying, okay, it's plastic, I don't buy plastic. I think we are going in a very wrong direction, even though, yes, consumer driven, of course. I mean, we need to respond, and Walmart and Whole Foods and Tesco, all of them need to respond to the consumer demand for more sustainable packaging. But I also think what Martin mentioned, especially the AR possibility on the packaging, can actually give the end consumer a brilliant way to kind of educate himself or herself on this particular thing. So just the packaging, how much water, energy, resources it actually saves, it's brilliant. And yeah, as I mentioned, so what we're trying to do here is we're trying to build a network of all the value chain participants of the performance packaging, so barrier multi-layer packaging, in order to spark the conversation, to work together with different companies. And we've been doing this quite successfully for the past 5 years. And we hosted different conferences all around the world, in the US and Mexico, South America, Eastern Europe, Germany. And we had quite large participants from the industry. And then at some point, with all the demand, we pivoted this initiative to say, okay, now we really need to go down the value chain to those who really make a difference. So large companies like the Metro Group, like the Safe Food Initiative, those of them who participated at our conferences, they really try pushing the kind of the consciousness of the right packaging. And yeah, this is what we're trying to do here as well. So, I mean, we're really happy to have people around joining our initiative. I mean, this is not something that we are trying to capitalize on. It's really, as you can see, it's a .org company. We're trying to provide a platform for a very niche product to say, okay, yes, there are challenges. Yes, we need to recycle, but another problem is the food waste issue.
This is awesome. I'm looking it up right now because I'm all in. This is great. And I saw a bunch of companies that I recognize, and you know, people who work for those companies. So it's cool to see how you're driving some change. I see Michigan State on there. I don't see Colorado State, which is where I went to college, and has no packaging program at all. But this is exciting. Well, we've got about 5 minutes left, so I didn't know if you wanted to, you know, to kind of wrap up the presentation. I've got a few questions. So
yeah, let's hit it on. I mean, I'm happy to share. People can reach out on LinkedIn. They can drop me an email. I'll just have it here, alex@changeandchallenge.org, or they can hit me up on LinkedIn. And yeah, I mean, this is our main goal. So we truly believe that the food waste crisis is something that we jointly can work on, and we truly believe that flexible packaging is sustainable, and that multi-layer packaging, as demonstrated by us, as demonstrated by BASF and other companies, is recyclable. And we really need to streamline the focus on a factual base, and not only on emotions and a very strong monolayer tendency, which are not as quite sophisticated and grounded as they should be. So yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, and I like how you brought in what Martin was able to share as well, where connecting, I think, consumers to an understanding that I saw you had Nova Chemicals on there. My friend Jonathan Quinn always says, buy plastic, live fantastic. And maybe that's not quite how people will feel. And I do know that there is a very real concern around the proliferation of plastic, but as you mentioned, I think we do have to really look at the consequences of whatever the reactionary decision is. So, it doesn't, if it costs, if it causes 10x carbon emissions to produce a piece of food than it does the packaging. If the packaging does not protect the food, in this case, and the food gets thrown out, we have done a disservice to that food and to our globe. There's, I believe the number is 895 million, almost a billion people every day go to bed starving. And I even read a stat that the University of Alabama did a study just in India because of improper packaging. In 2019, it was like $5.7 billion worth of just fruits and vegetables were lost. So this massive country in India, where I've been quite a bit, and I love the people of India, and we have food just going away, not feeding people because of improper packaging. So the answer isn't, we'll just get rid of plastic and just use all paper-based products and everything's going to be fine. I think you're absolutely right. We definitely have to collectively work together. I love that you're bringing together a coalition. I know that, the Sustainable Packaging Coalition and the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, and there's so much great stuff. There was a coalition of action to end global food waste that was formed. There's some really great things that are happening around this topic. And we should all coalesce around it. I don't know that anybody wakes up and says, I just want my packaging to suck and I want people to die. That's really what our brand is about. So, hopefully you can get more people around this topic because it's needed.
Yeah, we're trying to grow. I mean, in Europe especially, the example that you brought up of India, we don't even have to go as far as India. I mean, we have the same problems with people in
Germany, it's everywhere.
In the US going to bed hungry. And I mean, this is something that people are truly struggling with. And giving the producers a possibility actually to the surpluses that they produce to somehow give them an outlet. And I mean, there's the whole search of platform economy and platform businesses that kind of reduces this middlemans, and especially in the food industry, and giving them, okay, you guys, we have a tool for you. And if you cannot, if your outlet in your home country is too little, then we can support you with the right packaging so you can actually move your goods throughout the borders and across the borders. And you can make other people happy. And I mean, food is something pre-corona, something so much uniting, and people always gather around.
It's communal, it's social. Yeah, you gather around a table. Yeah.
And we truly need to protect this, and packaging is one way to go.
Yep, I completely agree. Well, Alex and Martin, I'm so grateful to have been able to share a virtual stage with both of you. I'm excited to connect up with both of you individually as well. So this has just been personally super enlightening for me. I hope it's been enlightening. I hope that people will reach out. Again, the emails are martin@Zappar. Did I say that? I probably, Zappar, like zappar.com.
That's the one.
And then Alex is alex@change-challenge.org. And you can also find them on LinkedIn. So please connect up. They're both doing incredible work in the packaging industry. Thanks to OPN as well for hosting these Think Tank series, and be on the lookout for the next one. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Thanks.